Welcome to our tutorial for Murder by Mayhem. This is a social deduction card game played in 3 rounds based off of common horror tropes. You can follow us on our social media by scanning the QR code on the side of the box, and also learn how to play this game on this video. This game is played from 60 to about 90 minutes. We recommend 5 to 10 players and ages 14 and up. Some of the cards are a bit graphic. So good luck. Can you survive the horror? Before showing player setup, we'll start by showing how to set the cards up for the center of the table. First, our deck. Next, we have our coin. Tails, you run away, heads, you're dead. We've got our timer as well that we'll pull out, and our wound cards. There's quite a few of them for all the wounds that will be happening throughout this game. Guilty Conscience and skipped cards share the same, they're double-sided. And lastly, our first victim card. Player setup. Each player receives 1 character reference card detailing all the characters and their abilities. Each player is then going to also receive 1 random character. Please look at and then place this card face down in front of you. This card is to remain a secret, as well as the character on the card throughout this game. For this video, we're going to leave this card face up. Any extra characters you have will be left and returned to the box. Do not reveal what extra characters are left over. That is also a secret. You'll then be dealt out a hand of cards. For 5 to 7 players, 5 cards. For 8 to 10 players, 4 cards. For now, we'll just use 4 cards. These are your action cards and will be used to play throughout the game. Although we don't recommend it, you may play this game with 3 players, cut the deck in half, and deal out 6 cards to each player. Gameplay. Now that all players are set up, we note that player 2 has a character, and just like in normal play, you will not know which character they have. Player 2 is going to go first, playing the card Armor Up. This is a card that does nothing action-wise, but gives -2 points to killers and +3 to survivors. They'll place this into their play area and draw to end their turn. Player 1 will then pick a card from their hand. We are going to play The Call Came From Inside the House. This allows you to swap any 2 players' character. That can include yourself. It also is worth -2 points for killer and a +1 point for survivors. We swap with player 2 and receive the killer. We've placed the killer face up for this video, but in actual gameplay it would be face down. We draw to end our turn. It's player 2's turn. They attempt a murder. Anyone can play or be murdered in Murder by Mayhem, and they chose player 1 as the target. We have a self-defense that negates the murder, sending both cards to the discard pile. Player 2 will then draw to end their turn, and player 1 does not draw to replace their self-defense card that they played. They will then be down a card the remainder of the turn. Later in the game, when it is player 2's turn again, they attempt another murder. This time, player 1 has no self-defense, but because they have a killer, they take a wound card instead of dying. This wound will remain with the player the rest of the round and will not be discarded even if the characters change. Player 2 will then draw to end their turn. Player 1 decides to get revenge and play Murder by Chance. This allows them to murder if they can flip a head on the coin. Otherwise, the player targeted escapes and the card gets discarded. Heads, you're dead. And it's a head. Can player 2 save themselves? Nope. A note on murder cards. Murder cards are unique where they have wound points received only if you wound a player, and final points if you land the final blow and successfully murder another player. Flip the card upside down to indicate that you have the final points and place in your play pile. Keep it right side up if you've only wounded them. Gameplay continued. Because player 2 cannot save themselves, they have been murdered and discard their entire hand. They are also the first player murdered, and so they take the first victim card and place it in front of themselves. They do not reveal their character at this time. At the end of each round, when either the deck has run out or there is only one player left standing, you tally points based off of whoever you ended the game as. Purple points count towards either side, red is for killers, and blue is for everyone else. Player 1 would add their points, 5 points, 3 points, and then subtract 2 points because they are a killer, giving them a grand total of 6 points. Player 2 will reveal their character, indicating that they are a survivor, and will total purple and blue points. They will add 3 for their wound, 2, and then another 3 points, leaving them with a grand total of 8 points. Characters. In Murder by Mayhem, there are 2 types of characters. Survivors are these bottom 2 rows, while the killers are on top. Characters have special abilities that are always shared with at least one other character. The best friend, reporter, and rebel can look at one player's hand. This doesn't have to be on their turn and can be activated when they wish. The blonde and the nerd can draw 2 cards at any point. This also doesn't need to be on their turn. The sheriff and the boyfriend can save another player or themselves from a murder card once. The final girl and the killers take 2 kills to take them out of the game. After the first successful attempt of a murder, they take a wound card, and after the second successful murder played on them, they would be out of the game. The blonde's ability is to draw 2 cards whenever the player wishes, including outside of their character's turn. When a character uses their ability, they rotate their card like so. This ability can only be used once, unless renewed later on in the game. In normal gameplay, it would look something like this. Player 1 would choose to use the blonde's ability and draw 2 cards. After doing so, they rotate their character. If the card is swapped or shuffled, the ability renews. Even if you receive the same character, the ability is renewed. Wounds will always stay with the player. When there are 2 killers alive at the end of a round, they have the option to earn bonus points. They do so by betrayal. To betray the other killer and earn extra points, the arrow needs to point away from you. If the arrow points towards you, you are choosing peace. Cards are placed face down and flipped over at the same time, keeping your answer secret. In this case, player 1 betrayed player 2 and earned 5 points. If both chose peace, they would both earn 3 points, and if they both betrayed, neither would get any points. Scoring each card will consist of either red/blue points or single purple points. Killers focus on red and purple, survivors focus on blue and purple. In this case, survivors will get 3 points and killers would get -1. On this card, killers would get 4 points and survivors would get -2. This card, regardless of who you are, will give you 2 points. There are some cards that are more beneficial for survivors and some more beneficial for killers. Special cards. First victim of Mayhem. Obtain when you are the first player killed. This is important if you are the blonde because it gives the killers bonus points. Wound cards. Obtained if you are a killer or the final girl and someone tries to murder you. You'll take this on your first murder attempt and it will stay with you regardless of if your character changes. Guilty conscience / skipped cards. Guilt is taken if you kill someone who does not draw or have a wound card. Your next turn is skipped out of guilt. If another player plays a card requiring you to have your turn skipped, take the guilty conscience card and turn it over and place it in front of you. Unique cards like loose lips allow you to share info. You can say whatever you want, it doesn't need to be true, because without this card you are not allowed to share any information. This card in particular uses the timer, which you will take, flip it over, and for 30 seconds you can say whatever you wish to share. Mysterious phone call also utilizes the timer. This one gives you 30 seconds to go through the deck. You get to look at all the cards, reorder it any way you wish before drawing to end your turn. Frame for murder. All players alive, excluding the player of this card, will close their eyes and point at another player, not the dead and not the player who played the card. The player who played the card will judge whoever has the most votes. Whoever does will die. Nothing happens in a draw, and the card stays with the player that played it, and it does not have to be discarded, nor does it cause you to take a guilt card. Bump in the night. The player of this card announces any card, whether it's a character or an action card. Anyone holding that card, including the player of Bump in the Night, will, with the rest of the players, close their eyes and pound their fist on the table at the count of 3 if they are holding that card. With your eyes closed, you are allowed to move your fist around. If you happen to bump into another player, they can't say anything unless they have a card that allows them to reveal information. The twist. When played, all living characters on the table get shuffled and redealt to each player. Keep your extra characters that were in the box in the box. Don't reveal any information about your new character, but please make sure that you look at them. For the full rules, check out our rule book, organized by section and detailed. For further questions and comments, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to hear from you. You can follow us on our social media or even email us. Thank you again for watching and hope you have a great time playing.